Today's tech news moves fast, but understanding it shouldn't be hard. That's why Snarful Solutions Group brings you Connecting the Dots, where we break down what's happening in tech and why it matters to you. Now, let's dive in with your hosts.
So, if you step outside today, you are definitely going to feel it.
Oh, yeah. It is not subtle out there.
Not at all. It's March 23rd, 2026, and I mean, there is just this massive heat wave sweeping across the U.S. right now.
Right. They're calling for what, like 200 new record highs?
Yeah, over 200.
Yeah.
Across California, the Southwest, down through the plains, even right here in Sacramento, it is just blindingly sunny and already hitting 85 degrees.
Which is, incredibly warm for this time of year. It kind of sets this really intense backdrop for everything else happening today.
It really does. But anyway, welcome to another deep dive into the source material. We always like to start by grounding ourselves in the vital signs of the day.
Got to check the pulse first.
Exactly. So let's hit sports and the markets real quick. Yesterday, the SF Giants dropped a game, losing 1-2 against the Sacramento River Cats.
Though Bryce Eldridge did smash a pretty solid home run.
He did. But honestly, the real heat today, kind of matching the weather, is in the financial markets. It is a very green day.
Oh, massively green.
Yeah, the Dow jumped 641 points, closing at 46,445. The S&P is up to 6,617. And Bitcoin is just absolutely surging.
It's having quite the moment.
Up over $3,200 today. It shattered the 71,127 mark.
And that Bitcoin surge is actually the perfect entry point for what we're exploring today.
Oh, how so?
Well, think about what Bitcoin fundamentally represents, right? It's a system that's designed to operate with maximum algorithmic efficiency.
By removing the middlemen.
Exactly, by completely removing the human intermediary. And that exact same philosophy, just ripping out the middleman, is suddenly tearing through the traditional corporate world right now.
Which brings us to the core mission of today's deep dive. We've got this fascinating stack of sources today.
Some really deep reporting in there.
Yeah, stuff from the Wall Street Journal, Fortune, Crypto.news. And we're going to look at how artificial intelligence is actively rewiring the power structures of massive organizations.
From the very top down.
Right. We're looking at everything from Mark Zuckerberg's personal workflow at Meta to this huge wave of tech layoffs all the way to the Pentagon handing out multi-billion-dollar defense contracts.
And the narrative connecting all these sources, if you had to put a name to it, is what we can call the death of latency.
The death of latency. Okay, I like that.
Yeah, because for the last century, massive organizations have relied on this very human chain of custody, right? Information flows up from the frontline worker to the manager to the director to the VP.
Right, until a neatly synthesized little report finally lands on the CEO's desk.
Exactly. But every single link in that chain filters the data, interprets it, and most importantly, slows it down.
Okay, so let's unpack this. And let's start with Meta, because apparently Mark Zuckerberg is looking at that traditional corporate ladder and deciding to just take a chainsaw to it.
That is a very accurate way to describe it, yeah.
According to the reports, he's currently testing a personal AI agent to basically help him run Meta. He's using it to retrieve information instantly, totally bypassing the need to ask his internal teams or, go through those traditional layers of management.
And this is a profound structural shift for a company of that size. The sources detail how Meta is pushing what they call agentic tech company-wide.
Agentic tech. We should probably clarify what that actually means, because that's a buzzword that gets thrown around a lot right now.
Oh, constantly. But we aren't just talking about a simple chatbot here. You don't just type a prompt and get a text response based on public internet data.
Right, it's not just a fancy search engine.
No, agentic AIs have agency. They are given permission to take actions, execute multi-step plans, and interact with other software systems autonomously.
And the sources mention a couple of specific internal tools that Meta employees are using that illustrate this perfectly. One is called MyClaw.
Yeah, MyClaw is fascinating.
It doesn't just answer questions. It actively accesses your work files, reads your chat logs, and it even talks to your colleagues or other AI agents on your behalf to get a task done.
It acts as a proxy for you.
Exactly. And then there's another tool called Second Brain, which they internally describe as an AI chief of staff. And I want to pause on Second Brain because the sources note it's built on Anthropic's Claude infrastructure.
Right.
What does that actually mean in a practical sense?
So think of the Claude infrastructure as the underlying cognitive engine. Anthropic built this foundational large language model. That's the brain, right?
Okay.
What Meta has done is take that massive highly capable brain and physically wired it into the nervous system of their own company.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they've given it secure read and write access to their internal databases. So Second Brain isn't guessing. It's fetching and indexing real-time proprietary company data.
So imagine you are sitting at your desk right now. You basically have a superhuman intern who has instantly read and memorized every single email, chat log, presentation, and financial file in the history of your entire company.
Exactly. It knows everything.
So if you need to know why a product launch in Europe is delayed, you don't schedule a meeting with the European VP. You just ask Second Brain.
And it reads the raw data from the European team's servers and gives you the answer in 2 seconds.
Which brings us right back to the death of latency.
Precisely. If you look at the history of the corporate world, human middle managers were essentially invented during the Industrial Revolution to act as biological data routers.
Biological data routers, that's so bleak, but so true.
Well, their entire purpose was to pass information from the factory floor to the ownership class because there was no technology capable of doing it.
But now we're replacing those biological routers with digital ones.
We are.
But hold on. If the CEO can just ask his AI for an unvarnished update on a project, what happens to the VP? Or the director whose entire career is built on, gathering that information, putting it into a PowerPoint, and presenting it to him?
Well, structurally, they become redundant, and Zuckerberg is actually very open about this.
He is.
Yeah, the sources quote him directly from a January 2026 earnings call. He stated, quote, 2026 is going to be the year that AI starts to dramatically change the way Meta works.
Wow.
His explicit goal is elevating individual contributors, so the people actually writing the code or designing the product, and, his words, flattening teams.
Flattening teams. That is a very polite corporate way of saying eliminating middle management.
It really is, but it also creates an entirely new operational paradigm, and the sources highlight this really bizarre manifestation of this.
Oh, you're talking about Moltbook.
Yes, Meta's recent acquisition of Moltbook.
I am so glad we're bringing this up because it sounds like pure science fiction. So Moltbook is a viral social network specifically built for AI agents.
Right, not for humans.
The AI entities interact with each other, they negotiate, they exchange information, and the humans just observe them.
Yeah, we just watch.
It's like a digital ant farm. How does that even work? Are they posting status updates to each other in English?
Not at all. I mean, human language is full of ambiguity and friction. When these AI agents on Moltbook interact, they are essentially doing high-speed API handshakes.
So it's just raw code.
Yeah, they're transmitting high-dimensional vectors of data instantly. They're negotiating task priorities and resolving dependencies in milliseconds in a language we couldn't even read if we tried.
That's insane.
The human role transitions from being the doer or the communicator to simply being the supervisor who sets the initial goal.
But supervising requires a significantly smaller headcount than doing, which forces me to push back a little here.
Go for it.
Think about your own workplace right now. Are these new AI tools actually making the work magically more efficient? Or are they just the newest corporate buzzword being used to justify massive cost cutting to shareholders?
That's the big question.
Because we've seen this cycle before, right?
Right.
With synergy and digital transformation. I look at this push for flattening teams, and I just see an excuse to slash payroll.
It is really tempting to view it purely cynically as just another round of Wall Street-pleasing downsizing. But the structural mechanics of a company's balance sheet tell a slightly different story.
How so?
The efficiency gains are mathematically real, and they are terrifying for anyone caught in the middle. The sources point to the direct human cost of this shift.
Right, the layoffs.
Yeah. Reuters reported that Meta may be finalizing plans for a massive wave of layoffs that could affect up to 20% of its 78,000 employees.
Though, to be completely impartial to the source material here, we have to note that Meta declined to comment to the Wall Street Journal, and a Meta spokesperson explicitly called the Reuters report speculative.
Right. They said it was based on theoretical approaches.
Exactly. So there are no final numbers or confirmed dates yet.
Fair point. The specific numbers at Meta remain unconfirmed. But if we pull back and look at the broader industry data from our sources, the contagion is undeniable.
It's everywhere.
Companies are actively trading human payroll for AI compute costs.
Let's define that trade. What does trading payroll for compute costs actually look like in practice?
It means looking at a human employee who costs, say, $120,000 a year in salary, benefits, office space.
Plus PTO insurance, yeah.
Exactly. And replacing their data routing function with a cloud computing bill that might cost $2,000 a year in server processing power.
Wow. When you put the numbers like that, it's stark.
Look at the crypto sector, which the reports heavily feature. A blockchain data firm called Masari just announced they're shuffling executives and laying off staff specifically to enter an AI-first phase.
And didn't Crypto.com just do something similar?
Yes, they announced a 12% workforce reduction amid their own AI push.
So it isn't just a meta phenomenon. It's really a structural panic across the tech and finance sectors.
Panic is the right word. These legacy tech giants are looking over their shoulders at a new breed of AI-native startups.
Startups that don't have all that bloat.
Right. They are being built from day one with a fraction of the traditional headcount because they use agentic AI to handle operations, HR, project management. Legacy companies are racing to match that agility, and the only way to do that is to rip out the biological data routers.
Here is where it gets really interesting, though. Because this death of latency isn't just happening in the fast-moving, relatively low-stakes worlds of social media and crypto.
Oh no, it's moving up the chain.
It is actively infiltrating the most bureaucratic, slow-moving, high-stakes legacy industry on the planet. The military-industrial complex.
The Pentagon?
Exactly. We have this piece from the Fortune Tech newsletter by Matt Heimer, and it outlines how the U.S. military has officially moved past what they're calling cute pilot projects.
You're getting serious?
Very serious. They are handing out massive core mission contracts, not to legacy defense contractors, but to tech startups. And the prime example in the sources is a company called Anduril.
The scale of the Anduril contract is just unprecedented. The U.S. Army just announced a 5 to 10-year enterprise contract with them that has a ceiling of up to $20 billion.
$20 billion. With a B. For startup.
Yes, and the structure of the contract is fascinating too. It consolidates around 130 existing fragmented orders for both hardware and software into one massive umbrella vehicle.
And the first task order under that agreement is already signed, right?
Yep, for $87 million.
Let's explain what an umbrella vehicle is, because government procurement jargon can be incredibly dense.
Oh, it's a nightmare.
Basically, instead of the Army having to spend 2 years negotiating a new, separate contract every single time they want to buy a new drone or a software update, they set up an umbrella vehicle. It's like pre-approving a massive master menu.
That's a great analogy.
So when the Army needs something fast, they just order off the pre-approved menu, completely bypassing the traditional red tape.
Which perfectly circles back to our core theme, speed.
Right.
Traditionally, the Pentagon goes with the legacy defense giants. Companies like Boeing or Lockheed Martin, because of their track record, their immense scale, and their ability to navigate decades of bureaucratic friction.
If they know how to play the game.
Exactly. But the military has looked at the private sector and realized that biological sluggishness is now a critical national security threat.
Wow.
The speed of AI innovation is moving so fast that if the military relies on human-layered bureaucracy, their technology is obsolete before the contract is even signed.
And the sources give us a terrifyingly clear example of just how fast that life cycle of obsolescence really is. Let's look at the software development space.
Yeah, this is a crazy story.
The Fortune piece highlights an AI coding startup called Cursor. They're only 4 years old. They recently crossed $2 billion in annualized revenue, and they're reportedly raising money at a $50 billion valuation.
Which is massive.
By any metric, Cursor is a monstrous success story.
It is. But they're currently trapped in a brutal innovator's dilemma.
Explain that for a second.
So an innovator's dilemma is when a successful company is suddenly threatened by a newer, cheaper, or more efficient technology, but they struggle to adapt because their entire business model is built on the older tech.
Right.
Barely a year after Cursor established dominance, Anthropic launched a direct competitor called Claude Code.
And Claude Code is backed by Anthropic's $380 billion largesse. I mean, they have access to an almost bottomless ocean of raw computing power.
Exactly. And Claude Code is fundamentally designed around that same agentic AI concept we discussed earlier with Zuckerberg's workflow.
So how does an AI coding agent actually differ from what Cursor was already doing? Why is a $50 billion unicorn suddenly terrified of this new thing?
Okay, so a traditional AI coding assistant is like a really smart autocomplete. You type a prompt, and it suggests a block of code. But it still requires the human programmer to figure out where to paste it, how to test it, and how to integrate it into the wider software architecture.
You still need the human steering the ship.
Right. But Claude Code, as an agent, doesn't wait for prompts. You give it a high-level goal, like fix the login bug on the mobile app.
And it just does it.
The agent independently reads the entire company's code base, identifies the source of the bug, writes the new code, runs the diagnostic tests autonomously, and pushes the final fix right into production.
It is the autonomous execution that completely changes the game.
Completely.
And now, according to the sources, investors are whispering that customers in portfolio startups are already starting to decouple from Cursor and migrate to Claude Code.
It's happening so fast.
So you have a 4-year-old startup valued at $50 billion that is facing existential dread from an even newer iteration of AI. The life cycle of dominance used to be measured in decades. Now it's shrinking down to months.
And the sheer velocity of this technological turnover is exactly why the federal government is stepping in. The Fortune newsletter notes a new White House AI roadmap.
Well,
And their primary recommendation is urging Congress to preempt state AI laws.
Now, preemption means the federal government steps in and says, our national rules override any local laws. Why are they doing that?
Because a patchwork of 50 different state regulations is considered too burdensome to innovation. The federal government is watching the Cursor versus Claude code battle, and they're watching the Pentagon rely on Anduril, and they're concluding that winning this global AI arms race requires zero friction.
So they are prioritizing raw innovation speed over localized regulation.
Exactly. Though, to be impartial, they aren't endorsing a total free-for-all.
Right, we should clarify that. The sources mentioned they want to protect local laws regarding child safety, specifically bans on AI-generated child sexual abuse material and strict age-gating requirements.
Yes, so the basic safety guardrails remain. But economically, the roadmap also calls for federal legislation focused on AI skills training and massive data collection regarding AI-driven job displacement.
Which, if we look back at the beginning of our conversation regarding Meta and the broader crypto industry layoffs, the government knows that job displacement wave is already hitting the shore.
They absolutely do. The White House, the Pentagon, and the C-suite at Meta are all looking at the exact same terrifying data point. Legacy, human-layered structures simply cannot process information or execute tasks fast enough to survive the next decade.
So if there's a single overarching synthesis to draw from all these sources today, it is this. Knowledge and speed are the new primary currencies of the global economy.
Unquestionable.
The traditional vertical org chart is being violently flattened into a pancake. Whether you are a CEO trying to steer a global tech giant, a software engineer trying to build an app, or a 5-star general managing a theater of operations, if you aren't using an AI agent to cut through the noise and route your data instantly, you are directly competing against someone who is.
It really is a totally new landscape, and it's moving under our feet.
Think about your own position in whatever organization you work for. Are you the one setting the goals, or are you the biological data router who is about to be replaced by an API call?
It's a tough question to ask yourself.
We've covered a massive amount of ground today. We started with a blistering heat wave and a surging Bitcoin market, and used that to understand the algorithm removal of human middlemen. We looked at Mark Zuckerberg automating the role of his management tier with an AI chief of staff,
Which is a huge structural shift.
We debated whether the resulting layoffs are just corporate cost-cutting or a genuine terrifying leap in efficiency. And finally, we explored how that exact same desperate need for agility is causing the Pentagon to bypass legacy giants and award $20 billion contracts to startups.
The through line is so clear. The latency of human bureaucracy is being systematically engineered out of our institutions.
Which brings me back to that strange, surreal detail we discussed earlier.
Moltbook.
Yes, Moltbook. That new social network Meta acquired, where AI agents just interact, negotiate, and resolve tasks with each other while humans sit back and watch.
The digital ant farm.
Right now, it feels like a bizarre novelty. But project the trajectory we've mapped out today into the near future. If AIs are already managing our company files, writing and testing our software code autonomously, acting as the CEO's chief of staff, and successfully communicating on their own private networks?
Where does it stop?
Exactly. How long until an AI is the one negotiating the terms of that $20 billion Pentagon contract while we just sit back and watch?
It really forces us to ask what our ultimate role will be when the systems we are building no longer require our input to function. only our permission to start.
That is something profound for all of us to chew on today. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the source material. We hope it helped you cut through the noise and see the structure shifting beneath your feet. Keep questioning the world around you. Keep looking for the hidden mechanics, and we'll see you next time.
That's a wrap on today's top stories. Remember, tech doesn't have to be complicated, and we're here to help connect the dots. If you've got questions or want to learn more, visit us at snarful.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.